programmers, don't just use plain variables. Oh no! When calculating the sum of two numbers, we say x equals 1, y equals 1, and get 2 by executing x plus y. That is good for quickly crunching numbers, and it is the old school way, where we rerun x plus y manually if either of these variables change. In web pages, where we deal with information that can come from a database or a live remote WebSocket or even user input, we can't use old school. Oh no! Instead of saying profile name equals Alice at example.com, we must say profile name equals new signal Alice at example.com. And then, when we want to update the profile name, we got to talk to the signal, which has simple get, set, and subscribe functions. And we say profileName.set Bob at example.com because this is not an old school assignment anymore. We are interacting with the signal object that is holding the value. Now, stuff can happen automatically behind the curtains. For one, while we can get a value just once in the old school way by using get, signals allow us to subscribe to variables like profile name, which you should imagine being displayed atop of a web page now. So we can say profileName.subscibe and put in a function that is executed each time the profile is set. How cool is that? This little function could select the label in a profile dropdown and update the text to reflect the newly logged in user. This is very nice, but one signal is not a big deal yet. What we need to do to create real applications is to use a signal tree. It is just a normal object that accepts any property and has a children's list, which is an array that can accept other objects of this kind. Oh yes, this can be totally generalized, where any property can be used to hold objects, but for simplicity and explanation's sake, we just use the children array to hold other objects. So, this is a recursive object tree, and it does not really require any special notation. The curly brackets in JavaScript work perfectly fine. But you will need to run a recursive function to transform the nested objects or signalize them. This converts every property, including children, into signals with .set, .get, and subscribe. So you have your readable code that is just a nested tree of objects, and then a recursive function that converts it to signals when you are working with your application. The code is perfectly readable. The tree does not need to be complex either, just whatever works for your application. And then, to top all of this off, we use a web component, which is a way to extend HTML of a web page. I made one called loop that loops over the children property, and another one called bind that can convert any property into a bit of HTML. So we can say bind profile name to .dropdown button, where the .dropdown button finds the nearest button tagged with that class name. And of course, the bind tag does not use the old school get function. No. It uses the subscribe method, so profile name always automatically updates. In summary, If you are adding numbers or must use standard and fast assignments in your program, you are good to go. But if you are making a web page, you absolutely need a signal tree, which is a simple nested object structure that you convert into a signal tree with a simple recursive function that is no more than 10 lines of code. All information coming from the server, or whatever the user is up to, always goes into the tree. That is the single source of truth. And whenever a value changes in the tree, all the components and tags that have subscribed to it automatically update. So when you are working on a web page, you can't use standard variables. You need a tree of signals where the server can send data into and the user interface can automagically update from.